Welcome to the July 26, 2023 Parks and Rec Commission. This is a hybrid meeting with commissioners, city staff, and members of the public participating in person at the Arriaga Recreation Center in accordance with public health guidance for in-person meetings and participating remotely. Commissioners present include Vice Chair Aurora Brosnan, myself, Chair Mayron Bunyagit, Commissioner Jessica Gilmartin, Commissioner Woman Lee, and Commissioner Kelsey Terrio. Continuing, sorry. Assistant Library and Director Nick will take a moment to introduce members of new staff to the commission.
Thank you very much, Chair Bunyagit. I'm Nick Shegda, the Assistant Library and Community Services Director. With us tonight as well is Management Analyst 2, Ashley Walker. She's back over my shoulder there. And joining us tonight is Library and Community Services Supervisor Tricia Mullen. Tricia is going to be a co-liaison to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Okay, Ashley will be helping facilitate the meeting. Ashley, will you please take a moment and provide instructions to the commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair. For members of the public who are attending this meeting virtually and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raised hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling in from a landline or cell phone, press *9 to raise your virtual hand. Members of the public attending remotely who wish to speak, please take a moment to make sure your first and last name are updated on Zoom, or you may provide your name and the spelling as you're called to speak. Public comment will be heard in the order received and is limited to 3 minutes in length. For members of the public attending in person, there are speaker cards available on the table. Please complete one and turn it in to staff before public comment is called for the item you wish to speak on. If there are a large number of the time limit may be adjusted by the chair in order to allow everyone a chance to comment. When your turn for public comment has arrived, staff will end meeting. With that, I'll return the meeting to the chair.
Under public comment, the public may address the commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda. Therefore, the commission cannot respond to non-agenda item issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Ashley, do we have any public comment?
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment on any item not on the agenda, please notify the staff liaison by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, you can use *9 to engage the raise hand function.
We begin tonight with item D1, a study session on the updated Parks and Rec Commission work plan.
Pardon me, Chair, I'm just going to wait a second and see if anybody had public comment.
Oh,
I don't see any hands raised in the Zoom attendees, and there are no public commenters here in person. Sorry, please continue.
so we will begin tonight with item D1, study session on the updated Parks and Rec Commission work plan.
Thank you, Chair Bunyagit. I don't have a formal presentation for this tonight, so I'll just introduce it. Every year, the City Council asks that advisory bodies prepare a work plan outlining the tasks that they're going to undertake during the coming year. Usually, then the advisory bodies report out to the City Council on their work plan in September. So in the staff report, I outlined kind of that timeline and include the policy that City Council policy that talks about advisory body work plans. I also included the 6 items from the most recent Parks and Rec Commission work plan. And so tonight, the discussion is how would you like to update the work plan? If you'd like, I have a Word document with the current work plan on it or the current work plan items on it, and we can kind of workshop it here. Or perhaps you would want to discuss among yourselves if you wanted a subcommittee or you wanted to go and write a draft and bring it back. Whatever the case, happy to assist.
Should we start, have it opened up?
If we can call public
Oh,
comment
sorry.
first.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on this item?
For members of the public who are attending this meeting virtually and wish to provide public comments after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, engage the raise hand function. Or press *9 to dial in. And this is a call for item D1, which is the Parks and Rec Commission work plan. So if anyone has a public comment for that. And at this time, there are no comments. Back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Does anybody have a suggestion about if we should open it up on the work plan or subcommittee?
Would you like me to put it up on the screen?
I think that'll be,
This is not the formatting that it will stay in. This is just a simple table. So there are the current work plan goals. How we did it last year was there were work plan goals, and then there were sort of specific examples listed underneath. Last year, I don't know, I think Commissioner Brosnan was here last year when the work plan was developed. It went, maybe Commissioner Terrio, you were here at the time as well. It went to the city council and they added an item, which was they wanted the commission to develop recommendations about city hosted community events. I don't know that we ever did that, but I don't know either that the council ever followed up and said, hey, what about those community event recommendations? So the other ones are pretty straightforward. Point out that the commission doesn't itself provide high quality programs and services or maintain, upgrade, and modify existing programs, but they certainly do provide input and advice to staff and the city council on those items.
any questions?
Well, I think the way we did it last year was that we had a subcommittee work on this aside, so that we could workshop it a bit and then come back actually meeting to discuss. Anyone has any opinion on the way to go, or do we want to just do it here?
How big do you feel like these are?
Well, these are last year's.
Oh, they're last year's. got it, okay.
So they're quite well baked. But for this year, they're not baked at all.
Okay,
So I
got
mean,
it.
it's completely open. You can like edit and adapt and add to these if you want for things going forward, or you could scrap it all and start with something new. I mean, I would advise that you use some sort of foundational documents, which would be things like the Parks and Rec Facility Master Plan, the city council's work plan, and the city council's goals are often as well as like the departmental strategic plan or any departmental goals or initiatives, those kinds of things. Or if we have, I think our most recent sort of survey of the community was in August of last year. So maybe those, the results of those surveys could be helpful. That way you're not just sort of starting from zero.
Anyone have lots of, if we want to work through some of them now, or if there's people who were interested in doing a subcommittee working off of this commission in a different separate place.
I mean, how much of an agenda do we have tonight? It doesn't seem like we have a very long agenda.
We have this item and we have the Parks and Rec Facility Master Plan Addendum concerning pickleball.
Yeah.
So those are the two main items tonight.
And it seems like we can at least get a start on sort of the work plan goals. So we're. I'd be okay with that.
I think between from like last year, which does this also kind of flow of priority, or these are just?
I don't think they're in any
order?
sort of
Okay.
priority order. I think there were some commissioners last year who were interested in sort of giving these specific examples to kind of back up the more general goals that were above. And some of the things here on the specific examples had to do with issues that had come up in
Yeah.
front of the Parks and Rec Commission throughout the year. Pool operations, field use policy, the little
So they-
park improvements, and the off-leash dog issues.
And then I guess the commissioners who were here last year, are there any of the goals that seem like we need to update, change wording, take away where at, or we could, is there anything?
So I think that would be me.
Okay.
I think I was the only.
Okay, okay. Just wondering if this is still current or if we need to.
I mean, aside from facilitate the goals laid out in the 2019 master plan, I think that would still be valid.
Yeah,
As well as providing high quality
Yeah.
programs and services, is a constant. Let's see, as is the next one.
yeah.
And the next one, I mean, all of these, I think, could be ongoing work goal plans, the specific examples, if I remember correctly, I think that there were some goals that went to the council, and the feedback from the council was that they would like more specific. Is that how you recall that?
That I remember that they had questions about some of the goals, and so I think they put the commission at the time put these specific examples to sort of say, this is what we mean about the kinds of things that we're saying in the goals above.
Right, because I do recall that all of these items under specific examples are things that came up in the meetings ahead of that came from members of the public or out of presentations that were given or discussions that were that took place with the council in council meetings. So I think, there's been some progress on some of these items. I don't know if I was also absent for a few months. So I don't know if some of these items came up in conversation in those meetings. But I mean, I think it would be useful to sort of have some time to go and reference the plan, as well as look at any of the council's recommendations and workshop this a bit. Or we can, we can do it now, but I think it's useful,
Yeah.
especially since almost everyone here. For everyone to have that opportunity to reference the roles and responsibilities of the commission and understand what's in the plan.
My suggestion would be, just because those goals are quite high level, is, those of you familiar with the OKR framework, it seems like a perfect example. We could use kind of a objectives key result framework, where for each of the goals laid out on the left, you have some key results laid out on the right. And that way there's the level of specificity. So like facilitate the goals laid out in the 2019 Parks Plan, and then the key results are, what are those very specific things? And one could be, is it a specific park that we're going to complete? Or it actually could be updating the commission, because we know that we're doing that for pickleball. And so, maybe instead of facilitating, it's, updating and redoing. And the specific reason for pickleball and for other things. And then high quality programs and services. Whether that's the Menlo Park Community Center and having that, I think then we can make sure that we're on task with the specific things that are tied to the goals. That'd be my suggestion.
That was something we need to come back to then.
Well, if I might suggest then, Chair, maybe if you're not gonna kind of tackle it tonight. If you want to provide some more time for commissioners to like review the Parks and Rec master plan and city council goals. Maybe you assign or decide on a subcommittee of 2 or 3. I think 3 is the most that you can have on a subcommittee. And I can help facilitate with like a Zoom meeting or something or a couple of Zoom meetings to sort of hash out or meet in person. Do that as well. Sometimes that's a little easier.
Anybody have inkling to be on the subcommittee, or outside of thinking we wanted to, if we're working, because we're all fairly new, if we wanted to each kind of be assigned one to kind of be the spokesperson to talk about as well too, or either way, is there anybody interested in wanting to work off subcommittee or?
Is the deliverable due next meeting or a week before that?
I think probably a week before the August meeting, I think we were envisioning that we would bring back a draft so that the whole commission could take a look at it and recommend it, and then it would go to the city council sometime in September, though that sometimes shifts because the city council's priorities are.
Yeah.
So sometimes they want a presentation, sometimes they don't. And by a presentation, I just mean a member of the commission presenting the recommended work plan. It's not really that much more involved in that. And it needn't be hours and hours to kind of grind away at it. It could just be a couple of hour sessions to go through and, review some things, those master plans and things offline, just to and maybe the results of the most recent survey, and then get together with the other subcommittee members and kind of hash out the wording.
Anybody wanna either prefer subcommittee or prefer we kind of come back and like be put?
If you want to assign people to be on some committee, to volunteer.
I'm away for most of August, but what I'm happy to do is if folks have a straw man or straw woman, I'm happy to sort of look and figure out how we can put it into a framework that we can then use. I'm happy to sort of package everything up afterwards if that is easier for people.
And happy to be on the subcommittee. And with the other person that wants to do that, and then we can bring it to, how do you package it?
I can be with her on this.
Okay.
Okay. So Brosnan, Chair Nugget, Vice Chair Brosnan, Chair Nugget, and Commissioner Terry. And please reach out to me if you need access to any, they're all publicly available, mostly through the city website, the documents, but if you need help, I can't remember what was on the agenda for that thing, or you need help tracking something down, please just reach out to me. Happy to help.
Okay.
Stop sharing here so that we can see each other again.
So now, under regular business, the Parks and Rec Commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require Parks and Recreation Commission approval. The first regular business item is E1, approval of the minutes from June 28th PRC meeting. Do we have any public comment on this?
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please notify the staff liaison by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, you can engage the *9 function to raise your hand. We do not have any comments at this time.
Would a commissioner like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes from June 28th.
Do we have a second for the stated motion?
Second,
There's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes from the June 28th Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. Commissioner, I'm sorry, Vice Chair Bosnick, can you vote? Yes. Yes, okay. Chair Renee?
Abstain, sorry.
Commissioner Gilmore? Commissioner Lee?
yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
The commission passes with Chair Renee abstaining.
Okay, the second item under regular business is E2, consideration for a focused addendum to the Parks and Rec Facilities Master Plan to include pickleball. Okay, LPS Supervisor Tricia Mullen will introduce this item.
Presentation, which I will attempt to bring up.
Thank you, and thank you, Chair. Okay, so for considerations for a focused addendum to the Parks and Rec Facility Master Plan to include pickleball. The recommendation, city staff recommends that the Parks and Rec Commission review and discuss considerations for a focused addendum to the Parks and Recreation Facility Master Plan to incorporate pickleball. Considerations include a comparison of Menlo Park's current pickleball facilities to those of other local jurisdictions, plans for future pickleball facilities in other local jurisdictions, proposed next steps to develop a focused addendum to the Parks and Rec Facility Master Plan to include pickleball in the city's long-range recreation facility planning. The popularity of the pickleball pilot program indicates sufficient community interest and demand for pickleball to warrant developing a focused addendum to the Parks and Recreation Facility Master Plan to include pickleball in the city's long-range recreation facility planning. Developing a focused addendum to the Parks and Recreation Facility Master Plan to include pickleball is an essential preparatory step to place future pickleball-related capital projects and expansions in the context of the city's overall system of recreation sports facilities and will include the following key considerations. Alignment of potential future pickleball-related capital projects with goals, prioritization, and timelines in the Parks and Rec Facility Master Plan. Evaluate options for user fees related to pickleball and tennis, including but not limited to the following considerations. Ensure that Menlo Park residents of all backgrounds, income levels, and lived experience have meaningful, equitable, inclusive access to public recreation amenities, including tennis courts and pickleball courts. Prioritize use by Menlo Park residents and deprioritize use by non-residents. Evaluate current and potential user fees, including pickleball court fees, tennis court fees, and court reservation fees. Evaluate user fees for city-sponsored tennis and pickleball programming. Evaluate rental fees for the use of city courts for private instruction. All fees are subject to the city council authorization in the city of Menlo Park master fee schedule. Estimate cost and timelines for potentially creating purpose-built pickleball courts in city parks. Assess potential impacts to tennis users of potentially converting additional existing tennis courts to pickleball. Evaluate changes in pickleball usage resulting from the potential construction of new purpose-built pickleball courts at Willow Oaks Park during the plan's second phase of park improvements. Establish a timeline for undertaking periodic reviews of Parks and Rec Facility Master Plan, such as once every 2 years to review plan progress and adapt the plan to evolving community needs and circumstances over time. So in reference to local jurisdictions, we did pull data from those jurisdictions, Burlingame. So we'll look at the cities down the first column, the number of courts, and then pickleball courts per 10,000 residents. Burlingame has 11 courts, 3.6 courts per 10,000 residents. Los Altos has 10 courts, which is 3.29 courts per 10,000 residents. Palo Alto has 15 courts, 2.5 per 10,000 residents. Menlo Park, kind of falling in the middle there, 2.48 per 10,000 and 8 courts. San Carlos, 7 courts at 2.37 per 10,000 residents. Belmont, 6 courts, 0.224, 10,000. And Foster City, 6 courts at 1.87, and Saratoga, 2 courts. Current tennis and pickleball courts in Menlo Park. Menlo Park currently has 15 tennis courts, 2 of which are at Burgess Park, 2 at Kelly Park, 2 at La Entrada Middle School, 5 at Nealon Park, and 4 at Willow Oaks Park. Menlo Park also has 8 total pickleball courts. 4 of these are at Kelly Park, located on 1 converted tennis court, and 4 are at Nealon Park on 1 converted tennis court. The Parks and Rec Facility Master Plan recommendations of 2019 for tennis include the following. General comments stated that they wanted to see technological improvements for reservations. For Burgess Park specifically, they suggested updated park lighting fixtures to more efficient options, LED lighting for the courts. For Willow Oaks Park, the suggestion was reconfiguring the tennis courts to improve park usability. When the course lease, which includes the basketball courts, expires, consider shifting 2 tennis courts south to the current location of the basketball court to create a more inviting park entry and more usable park space to the north of the courts. Also upgrade lighting fixtures to LED at Willow Oaks, develop a system for improving neighborhood access to the tennis courts, and then improve drainage, which was impacting the courts. The resident survey that we conducted from June 13th to August 10th, 2022, was to gain insight into community interest and needs relating to recreation community programs across the city. The survey yielded over 900 responses and identified key themes relating to pickleball and tennis, including pickleball was the 3rd most desired athletic program among survey respondents after adult and child casual use of athletic fields. Pickleball was 20% of the respondents reported that they visited tennis or pickleball courts more than once a week. And 60 of the open-ended survey comments identified a desire to increase the number of available pickleball courts in Menlo Park. In regards to tennis court day and time usage survey, we conducted a tennis court user survey in April 2021 to gather data on the frequency, days of the week, and times of day when the city's tennis courts are in use. The survey had 272 respondents, 90% of whom were Menlo Park residents. When asked which tennis courts location they used, 175 respondents stated Nealon Park, 109 stated Willow Oaks Park, and 100 stated Burgess Park. 57% reported playing once per week, and 27% reported playing 2 to 3 times per week. Saturdays and Sundays were the most used days. Mornings and afternoons were the most frequent times of day that the courts were used. And then the pickleball pilot program. The city's pickleball pilot program provides 8 total pickleball courts. 4 of these are at Kelly Park and 4 are at Nealon Park. The pickleball courts at Nealon Park are shared with tennis, with pickleball given priority from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily. Observations by staff found that the pickleball courts at Nealon Park are the heaviest used. The highest observed usage is on weekday afternoons and evenings. A high level of pickleball usage was observed throughout the day on weekends. To meet the stated need for pickleball programs, staff has contracted with a pickleball instructor to provide beginner and intermediate instruction. Parks and Recreation Facility Master Plan Addendum Next Steps. City staff will prepare a draft Parks and Rec Facility Master Plan Addendum based on the Parks and Rec Commission's recommendations and discussion on July 26th, and will present it to the Parks and Rec Commission for further review and refinement tentatively on September 27th. I just want to point out that we are hosting a tournament, so on September 9th.
Ashley, do we have any public comment on this?
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please notify the staff liaison by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, you can use *9 to engage the raise hand function. We do have a couple of commenters. Allison Elliott. If you. Hi, Allison, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Yes, great, great. Listen, first I want to commend the staff for all of the research they have done about the whole pickleball issue, because I've been one of the residents who's been kind of bringing this to you folks for probably almost 2 years now. So I appreciate that a lot. And I just am thrilled that we're finally looking at how we can add more pickleball courts to Palo Alto. Just a few things that I wanted to kind of make sure that you know. I play regularly on courts in Palo Alto and Los Altos, and there are no charges to play on those courts. So they are generously open to really anyone who comes to play there. They're also often pretty full. Palo Alto does have a pickleball club that you can, anyone can join. And I think it's like $50 a year, slightly more if you're a non-Palo Alto resident, but they use some of their membership funds to contribute money to Palo Alto for court maintenance and other improvements to those courts. Also, I wanted just to make sure that you guys were aware that even though there are courts at Kelly Park, my experience playing over there is that they are rarely used. There's rarely anyone playing tennis or pickleball, at least in the mornings when I have been over there. But I believe, really, actually, I pretty much know that if you did some court conversions at either Burgess or Willow Oaks, that those would quickly be filled. And that implementation, just converting tennis courts to pickleball courts, is, I think, fairly inexpensive and can happen quickly. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for your comment. And we do have some additional comments. Doug Strauss. Hi, Doug, if you're
Hi
there.
there.
Hi, go ahead.
Hi, I'm a Menlo Park resident, been here for about 23 years, and I've been playing pickleball for at least 4 years now. A lot of the times I'm playing in the mornings at Menlo Park. We have a large group that shows up most mornings every day of the week, starting around 9:30 till about noon. And I also play in the evenings with a group that's usually anywhere from, that will usually fill the courts as well in the evening, starting at about 4:30 or 5. And there's pretty much never a request for tennis players to be there to take over the courts. And many times we have at least 16 people waiting to play when the courts are completely full. And we've actually managed the courts a bit by shifting people around because of there's such limited space inside of the current courts for us to use. So for the presentation, a few things I wanted to note is that Mountain View has 9 courts. They just added in 6 of them recently, and their population is around 82,376. Foster City, which their 6 courts, they have a reservation system. And that is something that has really hurt the community there because the courts get reserved and many of the residents are excluded from using the courts. They can't even wait to play, and many of them have gone over to the Bay Club to join just because they were so frustrated with the city in doing that. Additionally, as noted previously, that none of these courts in the other cities right now are charging or have any plans of charging at the moment. In addition, Palo Alto and Mountain View, and I think most of the others, all the courts are in one location. They are not decentralized into multiple parks around the city. Pickleball is very much a community type of aspect where people come to meet and jump in to play games, unlike tennis where they prearrange and try and set up matches and then find courts afterwards. We also have a Facebook group for Menlo Park and other residents who play at Neelan, and we're currently at about 515 members. And another thing to note is that many of the people that usually play at Neelan are going over to Palo Alto because there's not enough courts for us to play, and they tend to go over there because there's a bit more grouping of people there that will tend to play every single day. There's a bit more competition because we're so short on space in our particular area. That's everything I have for right now.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
James Schott. Hi, James, if you're there, you can begin your comment. Can you hear us?
James, you'll need to unmute yourself if you're muted before you start making your.
Is that working? There we are.
That's working.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Jim Schott, resident of Menlo Park, and in the last year become an active pickleball player. I have to just echo the comments that the previous speakers made, that I've been impressed with the Neelan Park filling to capacity most mornings, afternoons on weekends, and certainly almost every weeknight is filled with players waiting. And one of the most interesting things about pickleball is the openness of the community. Everyone that shows up plays. Everyone that shows up has the opportunity to play in sequence and are very welcome. It's a very open and welcoming community. To Doug's point, I have to support that reservations or fees may make it difficult to continue the openness, but not opposed to the idea of forming a club and asking members, either voluntary or required, to join a club that would help support the activities and maintenance and continuation of the club. I was impressed with the staff information and research on local area clubs, and that was done. One comment about this is that the 4 courts in Neelan Park are shoehorned onto a single tennis court. These are smaller than standard courts. I don't believe that plans to develop additional courts would include that. And so I think it may slightly overstate the density of courts that are probably in the long term. But that said, Neelan works very well. It's a very self-regulated court that all players play and are asked to play. And that's it. I would love to see more players. I'd love to see more courts. And Doug also raised the question about whether courts could be distributed across other parks. That might work, but there's something very special about having all the courts in one central location that allows the community of players to join, mix and match. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Peter Deepenbrock. Hi, Peter, if you're there, you could just unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thanks for some time here. Yeah, so as has been previously said, that graph that was put up stating pickleball courts in the different cities, I mean, it's just so disingenuous to say Menlo Park has 8 courts for their, you know, however many residents, and then it looks like everybody's, all the surrounding cities are all on par with each other. And that's just not the case. I mean, you know, Kelly Park, yes, some people go over there and use, but really these other cities, when you talk about Foster City, 6 courts, Palo Alto, 15 courts, it's all one centralized location. And that's just how pickleball is done. So to say that Menlo Park has 8 courts and that they're right on par with these surrounding cities at 2.5 per 10,000, whatever it said, it's just disingenuous. It's just not, that's so inaccurate. And the thing that I'm trying to understand is, and maybe the commission is going to discuss this tonight, but the fact is 7 months ago, the commission voted to add courts at Nealon. And so the question is, so then it was delayed now till July because they were going to do all this research. But that still brings us back to the question, are we going to add 2 courts at Nealon to help with the many, many pickleball players that don't have enough courts to play on at Nealon? So that's the question to the commission. It was, the commission voted on it and agreed to do it 7 months ago. And then some tennis players spoke up. So then the commission said, okay, we're going to regroup and come back and readdress it in June and now July. Are there going to be 2 courts added at Nealon? That's the question. Yes, these long-term plans are great and Willow Park is great and adding permanent courts, but that's down the road. The question is, what are we going to do right now to handle, you know, the fact that there's a really long waits and there just are not enough courts at Nealon to handle the amount of pickleball players playing there. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Next we have David Rashida. David, if you could unmute, you're able to talk to the commissioner. Hi, David, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
There you go. Right,
Yes.
we can.
All right. Well, I've been listening to all of the presenters, Doug and Peter and Jim, and I will not belabor anymore the issues. I just want to say that my wife and I have been longtime Menlo Park residents since 1975. We started playing pickleball at Nealon Park when the lines first went in. And we've been trying to be daily supporters of the morning group. We've got a nice group going, and I would agree with Peter that we at one time were looking forward to 2 additional courts on tennis court number 4, I believe. And that somehow got sidelined, and I would like to give my vote and support to that as a motion, and support and thank all of the contributors to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if there's no other public comments at this time, we'll turn it back over to the chair.
Okay. Open it up for discussion. Does anyone have any comments about what's presented and comments from our public?
I guess just a question, about what happened to the 2 courts that we voted on last year. Because I thought I remembered, were they being used by the middle school and then that was the issue?
It was on pause. I think that
And is it coming back or are we?
Yeah, I think there was, thank you for your question, Commissioner Terrio. There was some comments after that point when the commission had discussed adding additional pickleball courts at Nealon. Some comments and input from Hillview Middle School tennis team, which uses the Nealon Park courts for their practices and tournaments. and some comments that they would not want to see the number of tennis courts reduced. I think the commission was looking at adding not having dual use tennis courts, but having purpose striped pickleball courts at Elon and a middle school tennis adherents sort of pushed back against that and wanted to keep the tennis courts for tennis. So I think what we're, with that sort of comment and with the other pickleball courts that are planned for Willow Oaks Park, I think the staff took a step back and said, well, we need to kind of sort of take a broader look at the entire city and at the Parks and Rec facilities master plan, which is kind of our guiding document for bigger capital projects. And rather than just kind of to address things as they come up, sort of make a bigger plan for pickleball, put pickleball into the Parks and Rec facilities master plan, which it wasn't, because it wasn't really a popular thing in 2019. And then look at that going forward in the context of all the other capital projects, and so that we can address it properly.
Okay, that makes sense.
And when we talk about this addendum, investment in creating a new court and not a conversion of an existing court. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, it opens it up for purpose-built pickleball courts rather than just converting tennis courts. It's the Parks and Rec facility master plan. Sorry, I lose some of the letters sometimes. Is about sort of looking out about the needs of the community and sort of balancing desires in the community for facilities, for recreation facilities. So capital projects, bigger projects, not just restriping, pilot programs sort of things, but like either fully converting tennis courts or purpose-built pickleball courts.
How many pickleball courts are planned at Willow Oaks? Do you know?
Well, originally, and I had to go back and look because it's come up in front of the city council a couple of different times. Originally, the concept designs were presented to the city council in May of 2022, and then to the Parks and Rec Commission here later in May of 2022. At that time, the concept designs had 3 pickleball courts replacing the basketball courts, which were sort of tucked back by the child care center and against the houses in Milan Park, sort of abutting the area where there's some homes. The city council took that and in further development decided that they wanted to make some different changes to the concept plan involving the front part of Willow Oaks Park, including investigating options for removing the sculpture that was there and using sort of reimagining the front part of Willow Oaks Park. I should have brought a map to put up so I could point to it. But so they're going to phase it because they didn't make a decision on what to do about the front part, but they were hearing input from the community, from the child care center, and from the homeowners who homes abut that area. And so they were considering putting 2 purpose-built pickleball courts in the front area as one of the options. The other option was a demonstration garden. And then I think another option was a small dog park, or a park for small dogs in the front, and then the back dog park would be for larger dogs. So they haven't made a final decision on that yet, but rather than holding up the whole project until the council decides on which option they want for the front, they've decided to phase it. So they're going to put in the restrooms, all the drainage, all the sort of underlying work, and also put in the new play structure and the dog park in the back, as well as a fence to sort of segregate the Ravenswood School District field from the park, because there were problems that came in front of the Parks and Rec Commission, complaints about off-leash dogs running and knocking over kids and things like that. So those are the things that are going to go in first in phase 1. The contract was actually awarded earlier this month on the 11th of July. And work is supposed to start in August on the first phase stuff and wrap up in January of next year.
So from what I'm hearing, there's no current plans then to add new pickleball courts.
There are plans, but they just haven't been approved yet. So it's one of the plans for that front section is to add 2 purpose-built pickleball courts to Willow Oaks Park.
There's just no timing on that.
Because the council hasn't approved it yet.
And then what's the timing on getting that, those, like, once that's been approved, how long will that take?
Well, I imagine that they would just award a contract for the front part of the park. And then if they were already doing construction, it would depend on scheduling the construction, which I'm not privy to, but I would imagine it would be sort of fall, early next year kind of time frame.
I just want to thank the public callers. There's always a lot of interest in pickleball. And when we did vote on the continuation of the pilot program, I think was what we voted on last year. There was also a ton of public participation in that. And so it seems to me to be a no-brainer to add an addendum to the master plan to include the pickleball. So I think that's something that I think benefits a lot of people that show a lot of interest in the city. And I'm supportive of that.
Would you like to make a motion?
Make a motion to add pickleball to the master plan.
In a second,
A second.
So before we take a vote, I just wanted to let you know, as Tricia said in her presentation, the next steps are staff are going to take public input from this discussion, go and draft that addendum and bring it back to the Parks and Rec Commission for your review and recommendation before it gets added. Which I neglected to state. We were also interested in your thoughts on reviewing, like setting a timeline for reviewing the Parks and Rec facility master plan. So we sort of got caught on the wrong foot with the upsurge in interest in pickleball, but then one of our sort of guiding documents doesn't have pickleball in it. And so to avoid that sort of thing in the future, we were thinking, I think Tricia told me best practices at least every 5 years, but every 2 years is better to take a look. If you wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, so in the considerations, one of the items was kind of reviewing progress and looking at any potential additional items or needs every 2 years. And then we are looking at getting accredited as an organization, a recreational organization, and that's done through our national organization, National Recreation Parks Association, that every 5 years we would have to be re-accredited. So that's the need to do it every 5 years.
So if you had any thoughts on that, about sort of cracking open that Parks and Rec facility master plan every couple of years, just to reach out to the community, see what needs are and figure out what we should maybe adopt or adapt a plan to.
Do you mean,
Yeah.
do you mean with reference to pickleball or?
With reference to anything. Yeah, with reference to anything. Because it's such a sort of foundational document for these big capital projects, which take a long time to fund and plan for and move through the Willow Oaks Park and the Burgess Play area. So it takes time to kind of move the bigger construction projects through. And if we don't ever crack open the Parks and Rec facility master plan, then there's not really an opportunity for emerging trends to sort of be addressed with those capital projects.
2 years sounds great, because yeah, with even like the example pickleball coming up within the last couple of years. When was the last time it was active?
2019, which was when it was,
Okay.
when it was created. So it's been 4 years now.
And is that something we would do during a commission meeting, or is that another subcommittee? Or-
It would come before the entire commission, but there would probably be some sort of public outreach around it as well, so that people knew that that the commission was considering it and getting their input on what they would like to see. And 2 years might be a really good time, because will be after the new MPCC project comes online, and usage of facilities might change if there are more people heading to that new community center. The Kelly Park, for instance, might be used in different ways, or people might want to use Kelly Park in different ways than they're using it now.
So the timeline will be looking at it next year then, after.
You probably would start to gear up at the end of next year to looking at another addendum in the year following. So, yeah, I stopped in the middle. I stopped you in the middle of the motion. I apologize, but yeah, we might need to change the motion, or just check to see if there's any other input from any other commissioners, or questions or comments that they wanted to make before we.
So on the pickleball, going back to pickleball. Did the pilot proceed? We voted to.
That's correct.
So
Yes.
did we get any useful feedback out of the pilot program? Is it still going on?
We got a lot of
It's
useful
what was
feedback.
just-
Yeah, it's wildly popular, and that's why we're considering adding an addendum to the Parks and Rec facility master plan, so that we can sort of help address that with more sort of purpose-built facilities, because while shared courts are useful for current demand, we did hear from a lot of commenters the last time we were talking about the pilot program that purpose-built facilities were really the way to go. Because then you reduce the conflict between tennis and pickleball players, even though there are ways to address that. We attempted to do that with time limits where pickleball is given priority on the courts, on shared courts.
For a permanent versus at the moment solution.
I'm wondering, it seems like there's a very large pent-up demand currently. And this seems like a great long-term option. And are you contemplating adding to the pilot program and adding more purpose, or sort of dual purpose courts now?
I think we do have to do a little more analysis because of the pushback we started to get from the tennis users. One of the things that we're talking about analyzing is fees and court usage, tennis court usage again, because we did that 2 years ago. Before we started the pilot program, we asked all the tennis court users, which court do you use, when do you use it, how often do you use it, what do you want to see? There was information in that survey that we got back about having more courts available for like free play, because a lot of the courts got reserved by instructors or classes, and so people couldn't just show up and find a court to play at when they wanted to. So we adjusted some of our policies around how courts are reserved. But now in Menlo Park, you have to buy a tennis court key to access the court. So I think there's a couple of walk-in courts in La Entrada. Is that right? Those sort of shared ones at La Entrada School are walk-in. And I think sometimes the lock at Kelly doesn't work, and so people can walk into that one too. But for the majority of tennis users, we require people to buy a key, or know somebody with a key. And so we also wanted to take a look at, well, is that providing the right level of access for people who want to play tennis? We heard tonight from pickleball users, don't add key or fees and reservations to pickleball. I think we need to sort of do a little more analysis with the tennis users as well. before we look at expanding the pilot. Kind of adapted or shared use pickleball tennis courts.
Yeah, anecdotally, just, my family was avid tennis players and it was unbelievable. I mean, we had a key. We could never, ever find Menlo Park courts to use, ever. We would basically spend an hour driving between every court. And then we ended up just buying a key at Holbrook Palmer because they had reservations and that was the first time we could play after 6 months of futility. So it's really interesting hearing the pickleball perspective, because I think what I realized, and I didn't know before, is that it seems like pickleball and tennis are actually fundamentally different in terms of the way people want to engage with it. So tennis players, I think, want to preserve and pickleball doesn't. And so I think I almost think you kind of have to have completely different ways of thinking about. You either charge or don't charge, because I didn't realize how different the engagement was.
And there may be other methods that we can come up with to allow access for residents to get court reservations and sort of emphasizing resident use of facilities, which is what our main mission is. So, yeah, it's something else that we have to look at.
It's not easy.
It's not easy
I
balancing
think it's done.
limited facilities and increased usage.
So I had a question. It seems like the long-term approach is to adapt changes to the master plan. So, I mean, we'll have a motion and see how we think about that, but I'm pretty sympathetic to the callers and want to see if we could address capacity somewhat in the short term as well. I don't play pickleball, so you guys are gonna have to help me, but aside from tennis courts, is there any other fields or areas that could be resurfaced to accommodate more capacity? Like,
Well, there's been suggested that we repurpose other playing surfaces like basketball courts and things like that. There aren't any basketball courts at Nealon, so I don't think we could. So it's kind of a balancing act. Where we have less usage, where we want to have maybe more room to encourage pickleball usage, it spreads it out. And we heard tonight that the pickleball players like it all to be
Yeah.
centralized. So trying to balance then those the demands on the limited space at Nealon gets a little tricky. If you move this over here and something else doesn't work, it's kind of it takes a little effort to sort of make sure that we're by changing one thing, we're not breaking something else.
right, so Nealon has, I'm looking at a map right now. Nealon has 5 tennis courts. And one of the courts is configured as a 4 pickleball, and the rest are just 2x2.
Correct.
Okay. So we would need a capital improvement to, let's say, take this grassy area and make that into a dedicated pickleball court or a tennis court that's
Yes,
mixed use, right?
something of that size where you'd have to build the court and the lighting and all the infrastructure that would go with it. Yeah, that's a pretty major undertaking.
Okay, but then for the short term, is Nealon completely maxed out in terms of capacity?
As far as tennis goes, or do you mean
Pickleball.
pickleball? Well, there were suggestions, as you heard from some of the commenters tonight, of moving the pickleball from that sort of separate court 1 into one of the 2 other double courts and sort of increasing the pickleball capacity there. But that's when we started to get information and pushback from the tennis users who were like, well, that's going to affect my middle school tennis playing kid, and so I don't want you to do that. So I think we would have to do a little more work to see how to balance those demands before we made a decision like that.
And once you convert the tennis court into pickleball courts, does that that's just can only be used for pickleball?
You can restrike them, so you can strike both at the same time. However, I don't think that's a preferred solution for either tennis or pickleball players. I think both would prefer single purpose-built striping, because it gets a little confusing
Yeah.
with conflicting lines when you're playing tennis or when you're playing pickleball.
Yeah.
Not that you would want to be argumentative, but it's a little difficult to see where the ball hit if that's an inline and outline, if you have overlapping striping. So it's possible. I mean, that's what we're doing at Milan Park now. The pickleball courts are striped over a tennis court.
But then are any tennis players using the pickleball courts?
I think there's very few. And you heard from one of our commenters tonight that they are very rarely so basically the rules that we have set up at Milan now is 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. pickleball gets priority. But after 3, tennis gets priority. So if people wanted to reserve or even walk in and play tennis, then they would have the sort of bumping rights for the pickleball players.
Yeah.
However, because we have other courts at Milan that we have available for walk-in players, it's rarely come up that tennis bumps pickleball players off of that court at Milan.
I also wonder if there's a way to draw more people to Kelly Park, because I never see people play at Kelly Park. Today, when I was there in the evening, there were 4 people playing, and it was the first time I've seen people playing pickleball there. And as Peter pointed out, it seems like the city has 4 courts because everybody goes to Milan, but is there a way to potentially drum up interest at Kelly Park? Potentially from, I mean, the pickleball tournament, but like with the new community center, people are going there. Is there a way to get people within Bellhaven into pickleball? And then maybe more pickleballers would come to those courts. And then there would be like 8 fully used courts.
I think that's a really good suggestion, and it's something that staff have talked about over time. And there's Commissioner Terrio is, for those of you on Zoom, there's a flyer for a pickleball tournament that's coming in September that's going to be held at Kelly Park. We're very interested to see what usage of the facilities, including pickleball, at Kelly Park will be once the new community center opens, and it's 6 months away. It's not that far away. Because it would be really interesting to have another sort of locus of pickleball activity at another place. I mean, that does split it, but it does provide, it also, as you said, it's not as heavily used as Milan Park. And so it will be interesting to see. And that's another thing that we want to look at, is what does the opening of that new community center do to the use of the facilities at Kelly Park?
Yeah, and I think somebody had mentioned the club thing in Palo Alto, and that could potentially, and I know there's a Facebook group for Menlo Park, but pushing more people to Kelly Park could ease some of the burden on me. Because it's hard to like hear all of the frustration over the pickleball courts in Menlo Park, but then see open pickleball courts every day at Kelly Park. So,
And is it just location? Kelly Park is not as
Yeah.
convenient.
yeah, I imagine pickleball, it just isn't as popular in Bellhaven as it is potentially in parts closer to Milan Park. Milan's more centrally located, so that's probably what's drawing people there. And then also not having the community center open is probably making people go elsewhere.
You have to drive through sort of an active construction site to
Yeah.
get to the park facilities at Kelly Park right now, which will change in a few months.
No, I'm excited with your comment that I think with the new community, there's a potential to have another grouping because people are accessing all the different facilities in the community center.
Yeah, and I also think like with the part of the Menlo Park Community Center mission is to like focus on the Bellhaven community. And I think there's probably a lot that could be done to draw people from Bellhaven into pickleball as well. And so that could kind of go with that point on our missions.
In addition to the tournament, we have started our pickleball programs for instruction at Kelly. So we have our beginning class and our intermediate because we wanted to focus on trying to get some usage and to have something happening, for pickleball and public.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think it would be great to have more people out there playing in Kelly Park.
I'm curious your thoughts, so. This is more of a long-term question, but. The caller mentioned something about creating a locus of, activity for pickleball, so having a central location would be. Beneficial to the sport as a whole, because I assume they swap in and out with different games. Would it make sense from like equality and providing equal opportunities for folks to, let's say, designate Milan as the pickleball only park? And then maybe divert tennis to Willow Oaks as concentration? Does that make sense?
With the use of space, I don't know if that's an option.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously the Parks and Rec Facility Master Plan, we would be looking at those options. It's really hard to say what the feasibility is, considering everything else is really active in that park. Neon's a very active park, you know, for our softball, baseball, the playground's active. So it's just an active space, which is great.
I think the issue too is the Hillview tennis team, obviously, that's that big. That's close to them, and can't, they wouldn't be able to get to, you know, another park that's farther away. I think that was one of the big issues.
It's one of the factors.
Yeah.
And I think another point that came up when we talked about this last year was, and this came up at a previous meeting, was the volume of pickleball at Milan was adjacent to homes. So that was, I think, a consideration as well.
It's really loud. And like we stated, we don't yet know what the usage will be at Willow Oaks. But it will definitely be a little more centralized than, you know, Kelly and where Neon is set.
I like the idea of that every park has multiple things you could use, so that even though it is pickleball is a centralized, like, you know, it's nice that then you can have pickleball and tennis at each different parks. So that the more, you know, we'll have more interest hopefully in the long run for everybody in Menlo Park to be able to play those things, no matter where which area they are closest to. I think. To see. Guess there was a motion on the table. Do you want to redo the motion?
Yeah.
Make changes or?
So I think, Nick, what you were saying is that, it makes sense to have a revamp of the master plan in 2 years after.
Right, sort of
community centers.
reconsidering, how did we phrase it more elegantly? Sort of provide a timeline for taking a look at the Parks and Rec facilities master plan, and the suggested timeline was 2 years.
Was every 2 years.
Every 2 years to revisit it.
For an update or.
For an update, just to see if the community and the commission were interested in adding anything to the Parks and Rec facility master plan.
Is that similar to the frequency that other cities review their master plans?
I don't know. It just seemed like a good, not long enough for things to maybe change so that you're not opening it up every year, and soon enough so that you don't miss another trend that's coming, because there will probably be kind of.
Okay. And I would mention that, if you felt that you didn't meet them every 2 years, at some point, that could be the time.
Right, I mean, if we opened it up and people were like, no, everything's cool, then that would be a relatively short.
We would just do a review.
Right, a review. Mhm.
Sorry, I'm confused. Are these two separate things? The master plan, reopening of the master plan and the pickleball addendum, or are they the same thing?
They kind of dovetail a little bit, because we have no schedule for opening up the master plan or considering addendums to the master plan. And so adding a sort of timeline for considering addendums to the master plan then sort of provides an opportunity for, well, pickleball's being recommended by staff to go in now. But there may be other things that might be recommended by other sorts of parks and facilities users, and giving them an opportunity to then, well, I'd be interested in adding more gymnastic spaces or whatever, just sort of, or orienteering. I don't know, I'm kind of making stuff up here. Those are real, but I mean, making up the community interest in it. It gives those other groups of users an opportunity without, sort of people pointing to the master plan and going, nope, that's it,
Yeah.
that's what it is, and that's how it's gonna, we're just gonna work from that, because that's kind of what we do. Because the projects have such a long horizon, you get requests from the community for all kinds of things, and you have to sort of prioritize them in some fashion, and this is the way that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of a big fan of that. I just want to make sure that we're not, it seems like pickleball is something that has a lot of interest. So I just want to make sure that we're not going to wait a year and a half to discuss
No,
the pickleball. I think that's why I'm getting confused.
no, the pickleball is proposed as an addendum now to the
Okay.
master plan. And we're also staff recommending that we take a look at it every 2 years, so that we don't sort of get caught wrong-footed in it.
I'm sorry. I was gonna reword it.
Yeah.
So I'll, if you have some more.
Yeah, so I think it's just the two things, right? So moving forward with the draft denim, with the stated considerations. And looking at the timeline for.
So I guess what I would propose then is, our motion is, to recommend that the master plan be reviewed every 2 years. I think that's a great opportunity for gather community input, as well as, I think we can tag on to that, this is sort of related, but a separate addendum, to add a separate addendum for pickleball currently.
Can sorry, is there a way for us to potentially move the time frame up from a year and a half from now? That just seems like a really long time
For a master plan review.
master plan review.
I suppose we could propose that, but I think what city staff was saying was that about a year and a half would be an opportune time, because that would align with the opening of the NPCC, and that would be a great opportunity to get feedback on.
And maybe,
whether
yeah,
or not
right.
we
We would have an opportunity to fold in new usage from the MPCC and surrounding, plus usage from the Willow Oaks Park improvements and surroundings, which.
Yeah, I was just thinking
Yes,
that
sure.
that was gonna be, it was in 2019 and that's gonna be 2025 almost, right? So that's gonna be 6 years. So that's considerably more than,
We are currently in a addendum situation with pickleball, so we are planning, with your motion and vote to bring back a draft addendum for pickleball in September. To this meeting. For you guys to review and. get feedback on.
yeah, I just, sorry, they're
Yeah.
two separate things.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
if we wanted to, around the opening of the master plan. That 6 years seems much longer than the sort of 2 years that you were aiming for. So I totally get why you would wait, because I think it does give you more information. Just wanted to throw that out there, that just to put a number behind it, that does feel. So if that's what feels right though to you to make the best decision, given Willow Oaks changes and MPCC, then that's fine.
Thank you for letting me clarify.
Yes.
Has anything else reached like addendum level of importance aside from pickleball?
Not really. I'd say maybe adaptive, all-inclusive play spaces has gotten close. I would say there was a lot of interest in that, and we addressed that with refurbishing of the park at Nealon Park into an all abilities play space, and with some of our programming choices in gymnastics and some of the other programs that are.
So we still have a motion on the table.
So if I can restate the motion as I understand it. So the motion is that the master plan be reviewed every 2 years. And that now we add an addendum for all considerations to the master plan. And then previously you were a second, did you want to be a second on
I will
that?
be a second again, yes.
Okay, let's put it to a vote. So do you want me to restate it, or did everybody? Let me say one. So the master plan should be reviewed every 2 years. But at this time, we'll add an addendum for pickleball considerations, and that will be brought back to the commission in September. And Vice Chair Bosman, how do you vote? Yes. Chair Yeggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Gilmartin,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
and Commissioner Terry.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Joshua absent.
Informational items are transmitted to the Parks and Rec Commission and staff's effort to provide an update on matters of importance to the commission. Informational items are not action items. However, a commissioner, city staff member, or a public member may request to comment or ask a question on any of the following, or any of the informational items. Our first informational item is F1, department updates.
So just a quick introduction to this item. We're starting to bring back some statistics sort of on a regular basis to the commission, both the Library Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission. So please take a look at those. It'll probably become more useful over time when you'll have them sort of a comparison. A couple of other announcements. Music in the Park series is going on right now. Unfortunately, those of us in this room are missing the concert right now, but it continues for the next several Wednesday nights. I think there are 4 more at Fremont Park, and then there are 2 at Carl E. Clark Park, all on Wednesday evenings. You can get detailed information on the city website. The pickleball tournament, which Tricia, we have flyers here in the room. And it'll be up on the city and social media announcements very soon. Trying to think of something else. Oh, this wasn't part of the report, but Commissioner Baskin did resign from the PRC. She had served for 8 years, and some family obligations had just made it a little untenable for her to attend regularly. So if you know people who are interested in serving on the Parks and Rec Commission, there is a special recruitment going on through the city clerk's office. I believe it closes at the end of August. I'll send out information to all the commissioners so that you'll have the direct link that you can tell people that they could search for it on the city webpage and find and apply if they want to. You think of anything else that works in sort of department announcements and updates?
Just so the commission knows, July is Parks and Recreation Month, and city council did proclaim that for our city, so that was great. And then we did do Parks and Rec employee day too. So that was recognized.
Ashley, do you have any public comment on this item?
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please notify the staff liaison by using the notice feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, you can use the *9 feature to engage the raise hand function. And again, this is a call for public comment on the department updates. We have no public comment. Back to you, Chair.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments on the department updates? All right, next we will move on to item F2, the Parks and Recreation Commission tentative agenda calendar. Ashley, do we have any public comment on this item?
At this time, if you'd like to make a public comment, please notify the staff liaison by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, you can use *9 to engage the raise hand function. And this would be public comment on the Parks and Recreation Commission tentative agenda calendar.
I've put it up on the screen there for those at home and for the commissioners in the room.
There are no comments.
So just a couple of things to point out to the commission this evening. You'll notice that August will bring back the addendum. We'll talk about the work plan, and that's because in September and October, the MPCC naming process is going to come back before probably joint meetings of the Parks and Rec and Library Commissions. The last time we considered this was in February or March of this year. It's probably grayed out above, but there's a lot of community interest in the naming. In the naming of the new facility. The MPCC is the working name, not the actual name, and the city council had directed Parks and Rec and Library Commission to sort of be the collector of potential names for the overall facility and the major areas inside the facility. So that is apt to take up a fair bit of time at both the September and October meetings. Just for your information, last time we alternated, we had a joint meeting on the Parks and Rec Commission meeting night, which is the fourth Wednesday, third Wednesday. What Wednesday is it of the month? And then the other time we had it on the Library Commission, which is the third Monday. Next month, they're in the same week, fourth Wednesday and the third Monday, which is a calendar oddity, but there you go. But for September and October, one of those dates might change for you guys in that the joint meeting may be held on the third Monday to sort of be fair with the Library Commission. Chances are both of those joint meetings will be held at the Bellhaven Library because that is where the most interest in the naming process in the community lives, in the Bellhaven and the Bayfront neighborhoods.
Any commissioner have any comments or questions about the calendar? I will move on to individual commissioner reports. Would any commissioner like to make a short report on items of interest to the entire commission? Okay. Seeing none, meeting is adjourned at 7:59 PM. And that's when I hit this.
Yeah, if you'd like.
Uh,
Fantastic.